So, welcome to the 1st of May Eve Vappuaatto debate, which suits very well for the idea of 1st of May, which is the, as we know it, the global movements, global solidarity movements and global workers' movements. Is a great history of 1st of May, as we know, from the 1800, where it was first celebrated, I think, in Germany. I'm not very sure about this, but vaguely, if I remember. That what is the origin of 1st of May, Workers' Day celebration, but I think it comes from the end of 1800 socialists, workers' movements, and also feminist movements. So the feminists were very much in the front already in that time. So we are continuing that great legacy, and our debate is on the World Social Forum, which is one of the last transnational global articulation of the movements. And I am Mika Rönkke from Rosebud Books here, and I'm substituting here Teivo Teivainen, Professor Teivo Teivainen, who's unfortunately cannot participate due to the illness. But we have as a special guest Uddhab Pyakurel. It's not so easy to pronounce, but he's from the Kathmandu University. Lecturer, professor there, and responsible of the Kathmandu University International Relations, and also one of the main organizers of the last World Social Forum in Nepal a couple of weeks ago, or a month ago, something like this. February 15, 19, yes. Welcome, Uddhab, to Finland. And then another discutant here is Satu Sundström, who's studying, what is your position in the university at the moment?
I am a PhD candidate.
PhD.
University, but also a research member of EnviroCare in Tapri, Tampere.
Both in Helsinki University and Tapri, PhD researcher on global feminism. In Helsinki, yes. Yeah. Oh, you have mics. Yes. So that's, and then last but not least, Professor and activist Thomas Wallgren, Professor of Philosophy, but most and least, I think, international activist or social movement scholar.
I'm happy to claim that title. Pleased to be here. Thank you.
So welcome, Thomas. And Thomas was participating the last World Social Forum in Nepal. Perhaps have some reflections on this.
Yes, I was at the Nepal World Social Forum in February with Uddhab as one of the key organizers. It was a great event. We'll tell you more. But it was a rebirth of the World Social Forum.
And Satu also has been participating some forums, as far as I remember, during the years.
Thank you. Not for several years, but I was in 2005 in Porto Alegre, and then 2013, I think it was Dakar, Senegal, so those, and then European social forums, and of course the Finnish edition as well before this one.
Exactly. And the reason why we are in a bookstore is a book which is edited by Thomas and Uddhab and Teivo, who's not present here, and Catalina, Revollo, Pardo, which is about the World Social Forum. And the title of the book is Challenging Authoritarian Capitalism, the Transformative Power of the World Social Forum. So this is our main background why we are discussing here about World Social Forum. We recommend this highly, though we don't have copies for sale of this interesting book, but I think it's available also in World Wide Web.
You can ask any of the authors. I think Teivo has promised to organize a distribution of the book.
Yes. So let's go on, and I propose that we, as we are in the Vappuaatto eve of the 1st of May, so we don't try to be precise and kind of short. So let's take a 1 hour good debate, and then we go for celebrating the Workers' Day and the global social movements. Is that fine? Yeah. So Uddhab, please, could you brief us about the about the Nepalese context of the World Social Forum and the World Social Forum in general to start with, and then we will hear the.
Thank you. You always, for example, Mika, Thomas, and Teivo, while I'm here, they organize something. And this is the case this time as well, and we should congratulate all for this Labor Day for tomorrow, and definitely we'll go for March, as you have discussed. For me, I guess if I'm speaking in cities like Helsinki, I'll have to elaborate a bit about our context as well. We are having all these capitalism-related books, and still in countries like Nepal, largely politicians could not separate, even social activists could not separate what is capitalism, what is alternative to this, and what are other social movements. But even if they are not having very clear-cut idea, they just jump to social movement if it is shared or popularized by the West. So this very Western mindset is within us very much. So I have to be frank enough to say this. For example, while we started this social forum movement in Nepal, I recall one of the events, for example, we tried to bring political party leaders as well together, because in our context, for example, democracy movement was so strong, and if we don't have a political connection, might be many people might not be coming and joining this social forum. That was the case while we started in 2007. And I remember one of conveners, he was representing a member of parliament in Kathmandu as well. He was saying, he tried to, he was active a bit, and he tried to take a side while movement gained momentum. And we had a frank discussion, and he was saying that, oh, this seems to be a bit US against movement, and if I'm trying to be in this USA related or movement against US, then might be I won't be having space in my party. This is kind of tendency we have in all parties. Say about communist.
From what party was this guy?
Yeah, he was belonging to Socialist Democrat, but I'm referring to every party. The mindset even a social movement has, for example, they can lead very big feminist movement, even agrarian movement, peasants movement, but the very idea is not clear where they are heading towards. So that is what is confusion we have, and I guess while doing so might be the very argument they have could be they want to test the fruit of capitalism first, then only they can go for the alternative. If alternative idea is coming all the way from elsewhere, because they are already having this taste of this capitalism, they are developed, they have less thing to do, and that is how they try to talk about this. So this is what is the scenario even today. So in a way, thank you, at least to come in to congratulate us, saying that we could succeed Nepali Social Forum. But even if we succeeded with a lot many good discourses being participated by globally renowned activists and etc., but still Nepali context could be, for example, still we have to revitalize, we have to follow up in a very minute manner just to have very clear idea about what is alternative for us. And definitely this very alternative also is very contextual. For example, my European or Western friends also come up having some romantic ideas in the new context, because our context is so in a way ecological with sustainability, and that very context, if we try to understand, then we have very less things to do regarding this eco-friendly sustainable development kind of agenda. But for example, if I take some of the concepts, for example, green economy, this even circular economy concept now being popularized, our Kathmandu academia and activists pick up a very conservative according to our local understanding, because it's and very conservative in the sense in a city like Helsinki, this is very radical, because you have a bit different way of dealing with those concepts. But for us, it is very conservative because we have far better ideology and way of doing in the locality. So I guess we have to deal in a very minute manner, just as a follow-up of this social movement, like World Social Forum, so that might be our way of doing it locality, but largely whatever people are doing in the name of this subsistence farming, in the name of waste management, even in the name of some democratic practices available in the locality could be sustained. Otherwise, it will be, if we try to follow whatever alternative in Helsinki like city, then that will be disastrous for our society, because we can't meet this. And this is exactly more extractivist idea in Nepal. For example, I could see if I relate our book. For example, yesterday I had a time to visit one of your farmlands some 90 kilometers away from here, and I was showed, for example, the plow which was exist here 100 years back, and that plow is entirely a metal plow. But still, if you go and see my village, the plow we use is entirely made of by wood. Only small might be 200 gram metal be used just to sharpen this. So just try to find. You had this all metal extractivist utensil 100 years back, and we still have this locally made and very sustainable green utensils just to plow as well. So I guess we have to understand these contextual things and popularize. But as I said, this is very difficult task for Nepal. Even my comrades could say that we have had very good social movement. If we don't link this with the grassroots, then might be, I don't think that we are heading towards kind of sustainability, towards alternative, towards peaceful society we are discussing, being based on this social movement, might be a mismatch kind of scenario you could see. So I guess being here in the eve of this May Day, definitely I should also elaborate. For example, in our part, 80 to 90% laborers are from the informal sector. They won't be considered having these labor rights. And even if Labor Day, this is only ritual for those politicians and those who are having in a way, big say in politics, society. So I guess we have to remember those laborers of labor also, and I think that is how we have to contextualize. Yes, social forum was good, I thank international community because largely it was succeeded due to this. But I again repeat my way of understanding, including academia, including civil society, including politicians, is a bit different, and we have to knock their door quite often, make it linked with grassroots. Thank you.
Well, let me just say that Uddhab really plunges straight into very big challenges. Thank you so much. I was somewhat a bit shattered to hear this. What I hear Uddhab saying is that I was there for a week in Nepal to share the experience of the World Social Forum. We were, depending on how we calculate, between 10 and 50,000 people there. A vast majority were from South Asia, of course from Nepal primarily, but many had come from India as well, Bangladesh, and some from other places, and then maybe a few hundred, maybe 1,000 or a few thousand from further away. And if I understand Uddhab correctly, what you're presenting is the gap between the political awareness and agendas of those activists who come to the World Social Forum, especially those of us who come from abroad, the gap between us and the realities of the majority population in Nepal, who are living a reality which is not destructive and are not organized. And the main point here, the point which I would like to take home and ask Uddhab to reflect more about, is just the difference between the agendas of those who see World Social Forum as their natural home, people like me. So I go there to create bridges between people who struggle for climate justice, ecological justice in different parts of the world. So climate ecology is one thing, feminist another thing, and then the rights of workers, the rights of Dalits, of the casteless in South Asia, all the minorities which are in trouble in all corners of the world. So I come there to create agendas which will unite these movements to make our strength, our capacities stronger. And I am aware of the fact that it's difficult for these movements to reach out and mobilize masses, to become genuine expressions of the needs of today. But what Uddhab tells me is sort of the reality that the agendas that were alive at the World Social Forum, that is still this gap. So I just take that home as a slightly painful lesson, that the movements which I'm so much part of and spend so much time in, the agendas we have, the concepts we have, are also in this respect not sufficient for the needs of the day, that really be part of the realities of the Nepali villages, which I have visited, Uddhab's home village. I've seen the plowing that he shared a bit of it with my friend here, so I've seen it. But still, to create those concepts and those political strategies which make alive the aspiration for us to stand with each other and build with each other. So I think what you said was very profound, Uddhab. I'm grateful for listening to this. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I would also like to address a little bit of this gap that was mentioned from my very limited experience of World Social Forum. But when I think the Senegal World Social Forum that I attended, this gap between local people and World Social Forum was huge. It was quite awful. I took the habit, because I was driving in the taxis here and there, I took the habit of asking the taxi drivers when there was these huge posters here and there of World Social Forum. So do you know what it is, and do you know why we're here? Many of the taxi drivers thought World Social Forum has something to do with the United Nations, and they expected that things will get better in Senegal, that something is going to happen since World Social Forum came there. So I think this kind of taking care and taking responsibility wherever locality the World Social Forum ventures should be included. I think it's wonderful changing the place. It enriches both World Social Forum, and it has done wonders for the feminist networking and kind of increasing and widening that network. But nevertheless, I think at least on this one experience, but you can challenge me, but because this is just my one experience, so go ahead and say I'm wrong. I hope I am.
But yes, definitely this should be the case, but I was discussing a bit differently, because yes, definitely those who are part of it and those who are not, only taxi driver and those who are watching from elsewhere might be having different perspective, but my hunch was within those who are in the lead position to mobilize themselves to be in the forum. And it is always very difficult, for example, who to invite, how to make it more people-oriented. And the tendency we have, at least he also referred this social structure, definitely our democratic history, the kind of democracy West popularized is not very, very strong right there. We have had our customary laws, and definitely largely Nepal tried to portray, saying that we are Asali Hindustan, pure Hindustan, meaning our caste system was so rigid. It was law for 108 years since 1854 until 1962, and even until recently there was not very strong law against practice of untouchability, practice maintaining this hierarchy, etc. So in this, in the given reality, you see, even today, those who claim to be social activists within our arena, and who claim to have mobilized many people in the name of particular social movement, they don't have cross-cutting understanding. For example, if a feminist is there, she might talk a bit about feminism, he or she might talk about this gender-related issue, but if that issue come to caste, ethnicity, other marginalized group, and they are as exclusionary as others. So this is whole, this idea might be coming all the way from this very strong feudal monarchical structure we had until recently. So this is one aspect. My hunch was within activists. For example, if we try to bring this fora in an inclusive manner, they won't be agreeing. If we try not to do according to what this capitalist way of dealing, they say, oh no, there is no way. So these are the things I try to mention. But definitely the good part, that is how we supported this movement, could be, yes, definitely what are the crises people are facing. Yes, context is different, but what is the scenario of farmers here in Finland, and what is there, and what kind of struggle they are having? What are the benefits they are getting out of government subsidies, and what are not in our part? So might be there, and how this movement got momentum within here and within there. So might be this kind of, and having understanding each other and supporting each other. I think this is the very essence of social forum. That is how we try to have it. And definitely in societies like elsewhere, if situation, if this everyone is suffering due to some of the economic or social model or political structure, then how to do away from this? I think these are the lessons learned from social forum. Definitely, I also learned a lot how to think about alternative while being part of this social forum. But my hunch again, my understanding again could be, but having said that, this we have to be more contextual. That my activist friends within Nepal do not want. So So in a way, for example, the largest group for social movement were peasant organizations and this community forest organizations. And in the name of community forest, what are the rights taken away by the government and why they are keeping mum? For example, nothing was there those forest dwellers in the name of community forest. Every rights were taken away, and I just try to understand from your society, at least in the rural area, still you have at least a right to hunt deer for the farmers, but that is a symbol. It's not enough, I know, but something is there in your society. Even you are so advanced technologically or other thing, but our part, we have to rely largely. Majority of the people have to rely on the forest, but forest is banned for using. Forget about hunting animals. Even collecting grass for their own cattle is also restricted. So then we talk about sustainable, and we talk about this ecosystem. And what ecosystem we are talking? I guess these are the things to be discussed and make it very contextual. So this is my thing, I guess.
I just want to pick up on this. The community forestry issue in Nepal is a good example of how the one thing is to recognize the gap between the realities we have and the dreams we aspire to fulfill, and so it's important to be realistic about that gap, but it's also then important to look at the lessons, look at those processes which help us close the gap. And I would still think, I don't think we can have a global, action for global solidarity which is realistic and has, will deliver for all people, all parts of the planet, unless we have learning processes between the social movements in different continents, in different contexts. So Nepal and Finland and Brazil and Japan and whichever place, all locations have to recognize the differences that the different locations bring, but also the commonality. There is a consumerist dream which has a cultural dominance. There is a capitalist and technological organization of markets and social life, which are very dominant on all parts of the globe. So we have common enemies, but we also have different locations and different solutions for those different locations. Some can be shared. It's very, so this is exactly the kind of experience that the social forum can help bring about, that community forestry movements in Nepal can benefit from sharing the experience of the relation to forests that we have in Finland, and the other way around. And so I would have, when you mentioned the community forestry people and the peasants movements who are present in World Social Forum, they come from realities which don't use those concepts, circular economy and green, whatever, that are typical for the environment and left movements in Finland, for instance. They don't use those concepts. But some were present in World Social Forum. So do you have any assessment of their view, the people who come from those movements? What did they say? So whatever is there, what I'm saying is, whatever is not today as good as it should be, is not a negative experience. It's a thing we can learn from in order to work better in the future. Because we don't have an option. We don't have I don't think we have the option that we say that social movements should not meet and not learn from it, not share and discuss and build together. I don't think we have that option. I think the struggle has to be global, and it has to be part of the struggle that we understand that the local struggle we have in Helsinki has somehow to be adjusted, be learning from the struggles we have in Nepal. Otherwise, it will be useless. So that's my position. We have to have these vehicles of learning. Maybe the learning is difficult, more difficult than we would hope. Maybe it will take more time than we hope. But I do not think we can have a globally responsible movement in this part or any part of the world unless it has some awareness and relates to the realities of those who suffer on the other parts of the planet. So I don't know, Uddhab, if you want to react, but I'm curious to hear. Also negative. Also, I don't want you to be romantic when you are not. I know you're not, so that's why you're here. Thank you so much for coming.
Yes, this is very much related to what I referred to earlier. For example, once we started having this movement since 2007 particularly, many people who were part of this movement have now been playing role in the government as well, as a planning commission member, as a high-level bureaucrat, and some people as a minister as well. But the very that is where my reaction came initially. But they couldn't perform. Even they couldn't put this agenda on the table. Yes, if they have agenda and it is failed by majority, that's absolutely fine for me. But you are part of movement. You said, I mean, at least you are part of movement, meaning you are familiar with this discourse in our context. But while you are in the place where you have to implement, then you might be more reactionary, more capitalist than others. For example, our comrades in the government, either social democrat, largely we are a country of social democrats, meaning social democrats and even this moderate left and a bit left Maoist, all talk about social democracy, and our constitution says we are heading towards socialism. But agenda-wise, I find nothing. As far as farming activities and these peasant movements are considered, they talk about, all of a sudden they talk about model like SEZ, Special Economic Zone, which is the most capitalist way of producing goods and etc. in China, and that was a bit in India as well. And also, instead of taking this issue, how to strengthen, how to slowly have this upward mobility from the subsistence farming. They only talk about romantic idea, for example, digital agriculture, like this. And so, so these are all copying and pasting from elsewhere. That is why my worrisome is, even if you have exposure, what kind of exposure you are having, whether you are contextualizing whatever things applicable elsewhere in the context. That's very very worrisome. I have, and this is the case to deal with community forest. This is the case dealing with peasant movements and even other movements. And then definitely we try not to address the masses. For example, issue of this informal labor, their welfare. For example, the recent example we have had this severe COVID impact, and that was largely impacted to those informal sector laborers. All formal sector were enjoying subsidy by the government, but they were not. And that is how this whole economy is now ruining. There was no circulation of economic activities, because largely 80–90% informal workers were abandoned not to do this. So, but even today that is not the realization. So in a large manner, my argument as earlier was, you see, we could not act as we should have, being or having this kind of exposure elsewhere and bringing it to localize in our context. So this is the thing.
Yes, we have some questions from the audience, but do you have some reflections on?
Let's take the questions.
Yeah, I'll bring this microphone so we get it in, because we are streaming this event. Just a moment.
Yes, thank you. I'm Katri Simonen from Swallows, and we are having cooperation in Nepal, 2 projects. And somehow this, if I have understood correctly, you have described the situation in Nepal and the civil society also quite in a gloomy way. But I've understood that for the civil society, this social forum was a big happening and very successful. And for example, our partner, NAFAN, National Advocacy Forum of Nepal, was very strongly taking part and, for example, bringing out the rights of Chepang, the indigenous people, and organic farming and participatory budgeting and things and biodiversity protection and forest user groups things. So it's not so that there is nothing happening as far as I have understood. And then one thing I would like to ask you to describe the atmosphere and the social political situation prevailing now in Nepal, because somehow I have understood that the federal government is kind of doing nothing, and the provincial and state level, they are active, but as their budget is depending a lot from the federal government, they cannot fulfill the expectations of people, and that is resulting in growing insatisfaction among people and among civil society. And I've heard that there is kind of coming more pressure and more insatisfaction which in the field of civil society, which can then in some years lead to whatever. So please comment these things.
Thank you. Definitely, I agree. There is I said also, something is happening. I'm talking in a generic sense. The kind of expectation we have, that is not meeting. So, and I want better than this. And that is how, also I said, it was good to have social forum like event, but we have to or we have to keep following up just to make it more localized, more grassroots and more grassroots people on board. And NAFAN, we are working together in many ways. I have been to the project area Chepang, and I also contributed a bit together with NAFAN. We are working in solidarity. So might be whatever I'm telling about community forest, whatever I'm telling about peasants movement, that is also applicable while we are working with NAFAN and other institutions, definitely. And for example, some reflections all the way are coming from even that Chepang village. While we visited, it should be, in a way, the most marginalized, and until recently that community was a nomad community, according to the understanding. But if you go and try to understand them, they were told to be as modern as Kathmandu city, as modern as Helsinki city, giving up whatever indigenous aspect they had. So they try to hide their identity, they try to do away from their identity, which is in fact the strength of that very community, and that is how a community should assert for. So there is dilemma within those communities as well. For example, on the one hand, they claim saying that they are tribal, they are definitely community with a very strong link with the nature, forest, but on the other, they try to hide, they try to go away from this identity. So then in one of the forums, I guess it was initiated by even NAFAN, I told what kind of village you want to have. If you want to have a village like elsewhere, then who could tell you, or who could identify, or who could recognize your thing? But if you have some ethnic identity-oriented activities like this, and then only people will admire, people will come to visit you. Otherwise, there are many places to visit. Why should I come and see this village? Because your typical identity, your typical way of doing, your typical way of dealing with nature, that is how this ethnicity be maintained. It should not be humiliating, it should not be discriminatory by the state level, but you have every potential to continue with your tradition and custom in a non-discriminatory manner. That is what was our expectation from every community. So I don't think that there is a difference in understanding whatever you understand, but this is the scenario. As far as this state structure is concerned, for example, yes, if a country is federal, this we don't have huge central government, but federal government should not do anything. They should generally have command only in three aspects: military, money, currency, and international this border. But even if we are there as federal system for 8 years, the so-called center, now federal government, didn't try to negotiate with other governments. You are right, but definitely these local governments are doing well, but we have to empower them as well. For example, in the name of sustainability, what they are doing, whether whatever, and I should not blame those community, neither Chepang nor local government, because they were told by people like us saying that this is the idea of going forward. This is the modernization concept. Otherwise, you will be considered as underprivileged, primitive, what? So that is where we have to discuss with them as well. This is not a primitive way. If we try to do traditionally, you are doing. So we have to advance this with this ground reality. So I guess this is the thing we try to deal with. And definitely something is happening. We want similar kind of activities, activists elsewhere, not only within NAFAN or within my organization, but whoever is taking part in the name of social forum, they should at least behave as if they know what is alternative, what is way forward being part of social forum. These are my concerns.
Thank you. Would you like to comment this, Thomas and Satu?
I have a question to. Maybe I have a question to on the same line. How do the needs of traditional communities or that and the modernization process meet? So one thing is in agriculture. How can those practices which are sustainable and traditional be continued under the pressure of modernization? So people will be divided. You can be proud of a tradition, but you're also under pressure to become part of the modern dream. So that tension is there. It's also there for the feminist movement, I think. And I just want to, not all people who are here might know that I think the year was probably 2006 when Nepal, through a constitutional assembly, formulated and put into place one of the best, most democratic constitutions on the planet, which is very inclusive and very decentralized in its vision of how to organize Nepali society for the modern world. One aspect there is the inclusion of ethnicities, but another is the balance what is the right with the gender balance, that there should be representation of men and women at all levels, equal representation. When people are elected, you elect, I think, man and woman, or gender balance in many levels of society is an obligation set by the Constitution. So I think that's an example of how, and the Constitution is a modern idea. To have a state with a Constitution is a modern idea. Also to have this balance of representation is inspired by the modern feminist movement. So it seems that the modernization process has come with some achievements, But then you also say, you referred, Uddhab, if I recognize correctly, that the feminist movements in South Asia, some of them have an elitist, modernist elitist tendency. So I just wonder if you could reflect, Satu will know much more than I do about this, and Uddhab as well. So how in the feminist case, if there's a tension between the modernization aspiration and something resources which are available in the local and regional traditions.
Yeah. May I go first? I wish I could explain you comprehensively, shortly, and give you an answer, but I can't. But I would rather give an example, good example this time, of how feminist movement or feminism can kind of change, but also develop and actually combine these agricultural traditions and modernization in a way. So if we think of Flora Tristan, which is a small Peruvian feminist network or movement, it was founded, I can't unfortunately remember the year, but 60s, 70s. It's part of Articulación Feminista Mercosur, which is very central actor within the World Social Forum, also has been collecting feminist dialogues, which is kind of a feminist front within the World Social Forum, so very visible actor for feminist actors there. So, but this Flora Tristan and the person who has been founding Flora Tristan is also, so this is also this individual level that we sometimes have. She's also Virginia Vargas, also contributing to this book. She is also a very visible actor within the World Social Forum. Now, to my understanding, Flora Tristan in the 60s, 70s was focusing on women's reproductive rights. Clearly in Peru, abortion rights were very important and sort of a central struggle for women. When we think of Flora Tristan, what they are doing now and how they are combining kind of this, perhaps, I don't know so well, have they learned from this global interaction, but I could imagine definitely has an impact there. But they have started these agricultural schools, and I think these are just really innovative. So they take these schools, or workshops perhaps better, to the Andean villages. And they have combined the kind of traditional this line of talking about gender equality and women's rights to agricultural education. But this education is not about modernization, but it is actually bringing back the traditional seeds, which are much more better suited for that environment. So there you see that it's not so clear what is traditional, what is modern, what is local, what is transnational, because often feminist transnational networks are criticized for being detached from the grassroots, but actually they can also bring these global ideas back to their localities and put them into excellent use, and I think this is a good example of that. So one example of this.
Maybe I can also, for example, how to deal with this modernization idea. I have very simple answer. For example, as I said, yes, definitely people are free to choose whatever they want, and we should not romanticize whatever this farming activity we have in our locality. Even if I talk a bit about this subsistence farming, what my parents and others are still doing, this is very difficult way to do. But my answer to your concern could be, for example, if we recognize this as labor. For example, countries like Nepal, we produce nothing as far as industrial products are concerned. We only have this brokering economy. And instead of brokering economy, why not we celebrate awarding farmers, because they are the producer something. They produce at least grain and other things just for survival. If we celebrate awarding them, at least recognizing them, then they can have choice. Even their children can be with them or go away with the fascinating modernization aspect. I have no problem. But what we are doing, for example, I refer to this COVID-like situation. We try to have different treatment. For example, if you have this company, you have this legal entity, etc., and in a difficult time, like in COVID, government offer compensation, government offer subsidy to that formal sector, but farming is not recognized by them, even if largely this is the production-related business according to our standard. So then what happens? Whatever is the strength as far as production is concerned, if you don't recognize this, and then there is a chance of being negative towards that very occupation. And that is what has happened. If you talk about 30 years' time of Nepali situation, all were considering Nepal as an agrarian country. Farming was the main occupation. Still people write in passport and etc. as farming because they have no other job. But they are now concentrated to urban area, and they try to flee away either Qatar or elsewhere for almost the same job, because this is not recognized within the country. And even if you have this romantic idea of modernization, you dump again to further difficult situation. So how to deal with this? So given the situation, at least recognition and at least sharing of whatever pie is offered by the government in the name of this subsidy or etc. I guess that might be the way out. And definitely regarding feminist movement, I guess she has already answered.
Yeah. Yes, my. Shall I stand up?
It's fine, it's fine.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Linus Atara. I live here in Finland, but I'm an immigrant of Ghanaian origin, and I've also been fairly active in these issues as well. But now I have a concrete question about the social movements now and the trajectory. That when this began in the early 2000s, it held a lot of hope. For one thing, it was initiated as a counter to the Davos Economic Forum, to my understanding. Yeah. But and then in the first few years, it was pretty active and very energetic and mobilizing and meeting in Porto Alegre and then later on other places as well. But to me now, I have a feeling, I may be wrong, I have a feeling that it has sort of petered out, in a way. But yet the Davos Economic Forum is still moving on quite strong. Now my concern is, now in this connection, would the Davos Economic Forum, its form is still quite intact. The social forum, the form is also, I don't know whether to say it has transformed a little bit or not. But now, looking at going back to the Davos Economic Forum, even though its form it still remains intact, what about its content in relation to the social forum? To what extent has the social forum affected its content?
I haven't been following social economic forums that closely to say if World Social Forum has had any impact on it. I doubt that. But what has been happening, what is very, again, kind of a feminist issue, is this appropriation of, for example, gender equality. They have their own gender equality statistics, which are then used by OECD and state actors and so forth. And for these statistics, they have their own indicators, so they are also dictating how we see what is right kind of an equality. So this is just why we need so much, for instance, World Social Forum to contest those views. But have we had, or this World Social Forum, any impact on that? In my opinion, no. But again, please prove me wrong.
I'll try. Thanks, Satu. Between 2001, when the first World Social Forum was there, and 2008-09, there was a time of great hope. There was a time when those of us who were fighting what we called neoliberal globalization thought that we are on the rise. We had the pink wave. We have the left winning elections all through Latin America, and we had a sense of growing strength. We won referenda in Ireland and France and these countries. So there was time when the movements felt strong in the opposition against what we called neoliberal globalization. And then came the change came in 2008 to 2011, when the neoliberal system showed its dysfunctionality. We had the Lehman Brothers collapse, and we had the economic and finance crisis. What we did not predict, and I don't think anybody predicted, was that it would not lead to the success of the left, or feminists, or ecological movements, or decentralization movements, or degrowth movements. It led to the victory of the new coalition within the authoritarian, fascist, racist right and the market right. So that's what we see. And that's what we're now fighting against. The monster has changed its face. So we're not fighting neoliberal globalization, we're fighting authoritarian capitalism. China and EU and US and Brazil are converging, India, all are converging into one model of illiberal, authoritarian, very repressive, fascist capitalism. This is what's happening. So, and the Davos Forum is picking up. They are learning. I do think, feminist is one thing, and the other thing is the environment. Maybe Satu wants to put in a comment, please.
Just quick comment. Once you didn't predict it, I didn't either, never mind. But you should have listened to the feminists who ended the World Social Forum bringing along a campaign against fundamentalisms, talking exactly about this, that if we don't stop globalization, these reactive forces will grow. So we should have been listened to.
Yes. I'm very happy that in this book that Uddhab and I and Teivo is not present, that Catalina from Brazil co-edited, we have contributions by these fantastic scholars. You mentioned Gina Vargas from Peru. Her piece on the World Social Forum and the feminist movement is there. I also want to mention, because peasants and the agrarian movement has been mentioned in the debate today so often, that a very, very beautiful essay in this book was written by the Mexican Zapatista-related activist Gustavo Esteva. He passed away last year, was it the year before? So one of his last essays on building the movements of the indigenous and the Zapatistas, and their problematic relation to the World Social Forum is very much part of the book. It's a fantastic essay. I highly recommend Esteva's and Gina Vargas' pieces. So Satu, you're right. I just want to mention Davos, and you asked about Davos and World Economic Forum, what they are learning from the World Social Forum and people like us. They are picking up our topics. They are picking up gender equality. They are picking up feminist, women's rights. They are picking up ecological responsibility. And of course, they do it in a way which co-opts it and translates it into something that benefits them. And just an example, a concrete example, one of the beautiful conversations I had in Nepal at the World Social Forum in Kathmandu in February was with some peasant activists from Tamil Nadu who so, well, this guy is from Finland, maybe he has to be a bit educated about the European Union. So they told me, oh, through Davos and these things, there's now an agenda by the capitalists to protect forests, to stop deforestation in order to protect biodiversity and stop, ecological collapse. So how do the capitalists, that's our agenda. We don't want ecological collapse on a global scale. So they say we don't want it. How do they do it? Well, they say, look, in order to stop deforestation, EU and other, we must not bring to the global market products which have been grown in places where farming destroys forests. So therefore, any farmer in Tamil Nadu in South India who wants to bring their products to the market have to provide a satellite image which shows that they have grown their crop on places which are not destroying forests. And if you can't provide the satellite image, then you will lose your land. So this is how the corporations take over all the land in Tamil Nadu from the small farmers. But no small farmer can have a satellite image. Only the big corporations. So this is how imperialism or colonialism continues, thanks to the learning process, thanks to how Davos picks our topics and translates our topics and our goals into something which will propel capitalism and destroy the planet even further. So they are learning, and we have to fight back.
Yeah, if I have to comment, I also agree with Thomas, and I try to reflect or refer on my own reflection. For example, it's learning by doing as well. We are also learning something from them. They are also learning from us. And for example, whatever buzzwords they refer in the name of development today, sustainable development, inclusive education. These are the projects coming all the way from World Bank and IMF. That is what they try to learn. And for example, even see the policy of countries like Nepal. We say zero emission development in 2045. Isn't it good? But the contribution could be more if I myself and we were involved in talking about alternative. We're having very concrete idea to push them. But today, that's what I from the beginning I'm telling, if I'm weak in understanding, if I'm weak in implementing whatever I say in the name of alternatives, then definitely there are others to have different ideas, and they will push me further, and I'll be nowhere. I guess this dilemma within us, within the movement people, in the name of social forum. For example, I write one essay in 2013 narrating those who participated in different social forums from Nepal. They took it as if this is a tour. They were taken by the big NGO saying that there is a World Social Forum. They went there. And if they didn't have background understanding and they don't have follow-up later on, then they feel like, oh, I have been to Helsinki to attend this social forum, and they don't know what is social forum. As she referred a taxi driver saying that might be there is some international conference is happening. So I guess responsibility is also to be taken care of by our own kind of activism. What kind of follow-up we have made with our comrades, whether we try to have this interaction even after coming back, a review meeting after coming back. For example, I'm pushing for a review meeting in Nepal. We have had great successful social movement, but then onwards nothing happened. Meaning those who were having good ideas, for example, I told just during this social forum process, I was taken some of the interview from some of the people. I said, this is 30% success because interaction happened, might be many ideas these participants are having, but if we don't follow up, we don't have further interaction with them. After 3 weeks, they forget and they follow whatever they are doing. So I guess we are also we have to be always inward looking, not always to blame others, I guess. This is my approach.
Dear friends, I propose we make a coup, like in the World Social Forum always, there comes the counter movement. So let's close this talking shop here on the stage, and we go and discuss with the real activists. And we had about a dozen followers in the stream in the net, and they have left. So I guess they thought that this is also a good time to start celebrating the transnational global movements. Uddhab wants to say something in the end, but I propose that we sit down here and continue the discussion.
Thank you.
And or go to the lunch. Yeah,
thank you.
Please.
No, thank you very much for having me here and giving this opportunity to elaborate. I seems to be understood a bit pessimist, but I'm not. I try to do more. That is how you have to understand me.
Yeah, I think it's important to us to start preparing the march against the fascism and racism, which we are witnessing at the moment in our societies as well, and that's the priority at the moment. But anyway, let's go on and aloittaa continua. Thank you.
Very nice. That's what we could do now.
We shouldn't blame others.
No. That's right. No, absolutely.